Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing, other building materials. Today, I am joined by our creative director here at Isaiah and our show co-host today, Ryan Bell. Ryan, how's life going today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Well, I got to tell you, I'm kind of excited. I saw something, a major news piece just came across. This is a major news breakthrough. Scientists announced that they have successfully grown human vocal cords in a laboratory setting. The results speak for themselves.
Nice.
Okay, sorry.
That was a pretty good one.
Not too bad. Anyway, shall we just jump into things?
Yeah, let's dive in. I'm looking forward to this episode.
I am too. You know, I've been enjoying these episodes lately where we've been doing a little more focus on home improvement and home services companies and things of interest to them. And today's going to continue in that vein. So for today's show, we have Lawrence Larry Kloss, hailing from the New Orleans, Louisiana area. Larry is a very familiar name in the home improvement industry. He's provided marketing and leadership advice and guidance for many top home improvement and home services companies. Larry was also the founder of New Bath. He owned a Renewal by Andersen RBA franchise for many years. He also founded Max Home, which operated both in Louisiana and Houston, as well as Love Your Bath in Florida, having proven very well that he can lead organizations to absolute pinnacles of success. Larry now focuses on business and executive coaching through his organization, Kloss Coaching. Larry, welcome to Construction Disruption. Truly honored to have you today and to dig into some great topics that I know will benefit our listeners.
Yeah, good to be here, Todd. I mean, we've known each other, I think, for 30 years almost.
It's got to be close to that.
It's been about 30 years.
Right. And I was trying to tell Ryan, and I think if I remember, you spoke at that dealer meeting we had down outside of San Antonio at that resort. Yep.
Yes, I did speak at one of your dealer meetings a long time ago.
Goes back. Well, over those years, Larry, really, I've always had a huge amount of respect for you as an absolute creative genius. And I have to tell you, one of the things, again, since we're talking about 30 years ago, you were probably the first one that really opened my eyes to the importance of lead generation and how that can be done more effectively with creativity, knowing your numbers, all those types of good things. And over the years, you have been a marketing coach, like we talked about, an entrepreneur on your own. You've also been a life coach. And all during that time, you've had this great journey through the world of home improvement. I'm kind of curious, why do you feel that this industry offers great opportunity for those who want to work hard and build future and businesses for themselves and their families?
That's a great question, Todd. I'm passionate about the answer to that. And the answer is that, there's low barriers to entry, right? It's not hard to get into this business, but it's hard to succeed at it, right? But I've seen so many different people get in, apply themselves, work hard, and have an incredible life, right? And I remember actually when I met you, before I was in home improvement, I had an ad agency, and I specialized in home improvement companies and car dealerships, and I decided I wanted to go in business. I mean, the only way you get a car dealership is if your dad or mom give you one, right? And there's a lot of industries like that. You just don't get to go in them. You can't just raise the money for a factory to create something, but home improvement is something that a lot of people can get in. And if they work hard and work smart, they can win at it and create an incredible life. And there's not many places like that. And you want to know, one of the things that blows my mind is having started with automotive and home improvement people, I would have never guessed 25 years later that the multiples paid to home improvement companies for sale are way higher than car dealerships.
Goodness gracious. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that later on, but that is phenomenal, what's happening right now. As you talk about that and that entrepreneurial journey, I think a little bit about Charlie Gindell, who you might have known. He
I know
used to be an
Charlie.
RBA guy.
Yeah.
But what an amazing story he has too of a guy that was just not just, but he's a factory guy, manufacturers
Yeah.
guy for Alcoa, and suddenly decided to do his own thing and build a tremendous legacy for him and his family. Well, as you went through that entrepreneurial journey yourself, in home improvement, what are some of the key things that you learned, down there in the trenches of your own businesses that you carry with you today as you coach and guide others to success in their businesses?
I think the main one is that it's all people. There was one point where I would say early in my career that, hey, I'm in the leads business and I happen to install stuff. That changed as I got wiser, that I'm in the people business, that happens to get leads, that happen to install stuff. I mean, it's all about people. It's all about finding the right people, keeping the right people, finding more of the right people. I mean, it's all about that. It's all about keeping them happy.
That is really interesting because I think a lot of people in home improvement still will say it's all about the leads, it's all about marketing. But I love what you're saying there.
Yeah, no, look, it is about it, but the right people get you the right leads, right? The right people close the right leads, the right people install them correctly. I mean, we're in a people business. To scale it, it's about people. And there's a lot of aspects to that. As I said, keeping them, finding them. What I find a lot of people stumble at is as they grow, not bringing the people on, right? Someone has a business of a certain size and it's time to bring on a sales manager. And for any number of reasons, you don't want to give up the cash out of your pocket or whatever it takes. And all of a sudden you're not bringing on a sales manager. You're stuck in that role yourself. You have to be able to know when it is time to bring people on. And by the way, it's usually time to bring people on right when you're uncomfortable, right before it's time to actually bring them on. And then, the work it takes, keeping them happy and keeping them motivated.
So one of the terms I often have used for you over the years, Larry, maybe you didn't even know it, is that you are absolutely, though, a creative genius when it comes to marketing and lead generation. And I love that focus on people, but the fact is you are a genius at creativity. And I'm kind of curious, what changes have you seen in business and culture over the years? In those changes that you've seen, do you still see that creativity plays a big role in the success of home improvement companies? And if so, what are some of the ways you suggest that companies tap into those creative marketing ideas and practices?
Yes, I think creativity plays an very important part in success. I will add, though, that I think creativity, not just in marketing. Yeah, creativity in marketing is incredibly important. How to tap into that, generally outsource it, right? I would generally say to outsource it and find the right people. And I would say outsource it, not necessarily to the person who has 10 other home improvement companies. Outsource it to someone who might be able to think outside the box for you. Creativity, I think, is very important in a lot of the other aspects. Hiring, pay plans, growth strategies. And then another way to tap into creativity, I think, is make sure you have some diversity on your team, right? Make sure that your team thinks, looks, acts differently than you and each other, right? That diversity really plays a big part in it.
Yeah, because your customer base is going to be very diverse. So you've got to be able to reflect that internally as well. That makes sense.
Yes. And I've seen that really spark creativities in ways that would not happen otherwise, right? Just would not happen otherwise. When you have a group of diverse people in the room bouncing things off, some things come up that just surprise the heck out of you.
A couple of weeks ago, we had the CEO and founder of Florida Window and Door on the show. And, he talked about how their company had come up with this mascot recently or a couple of years ago, and how that had really opened the doors for them in terms of being able to generate more leads and have that memorable fixture that people think of. They think of Shelly the turtle now when they think of new windows and doors. Well, let's switch a little bit and talk about culture in a company. And, we talk about diversity and the importance of that, but I have to think that as an executive and business coach, this idea of company culture has to come up a lot for discussion. So, what tips do you have for business owners and leaders to shape and maintain this strong, positive culture, while at the same time doing all the complex stuff they got to keep doing to keep the business going?
So a couple things. One, I think culture is the most important thing in a business. I think culture is the most important thing that senior executives need to do. Peter Drucker was the one who said culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? The culture is more important than the strategy. It is probably the number one rule. The leader, the visionary, the head of it needs to believe what I just said and needs to live it and spend time on it, a large percentage of his time on it. You have to make the time to spend on it. I can tell you when I was acquired, like in the first meetings, culture was brought up, right? I feel strongly that I got a great price and a great partner because of the culture I built. And what's funny is when I still talk to them, they still discuss the culture that we have there and how they try to instill it in other companies. It takes the leader buying in that culture is important, and it takes that leader spending time on it, right? It's that easy, right? It's the same as customer satisfaction, right? Like people say, I just pushed customer satisfaction so high. I was always high at Renewal by Anderson, which is just maniacal about it. And they'd ask how you do it, like what are the secrets? And the secrets are the person at the top has to give a crap, really, really care about it. For instance, I would never send an email out about sales being up or down, but I would send emails to people in the company about customer service things, right? Just when you focus and you really care about those things, it makes a difference.
Well, and that just filters down when it does start with that focus in your leadership on culture. Makes a lot of sense.
And let me add something too, Todd, is that the leader has to be the one. The leader not has to be the one. The leader has to buy in and spend time on it. However, I'm a firm believer that as companies mature and as they grow in size, the culture needs to be developed by the people within the company. For instance, I always had culture committees where people would come together and work on mission, vision, values, and things. It was, I don't want to say that I'm saying that it's top down. I actually think it's the opposite, that the leader has to buy into it. And when the leader buys in and makes it a focus, let it grow from the bottom up.
That's good stuff. I'm going to be thinking about that tonight. That's good advice there, Larry. So I'm curious for folks out there who are not working with you as their coach, and I shall say not yet, what practical advice do you have for them to ensure that they are leading their businesses with that kind of purpose and intentionality? Seems like one of the things that our industry is notorious for is people leading a business simply because they have a few years of experience and doing it by the seat of their pants. So how does that executive make sure that they are always leading with purpose and intentionality?
Honestly, Todd, I think you jumped ahead of yourself, and I think you somewhat answered your question. I mean, really the key is to lead with purpose and intentionality, right? And how do they make sure, like, if they do that, and I would suggest that it's written, and I would suggest that purpose and intentionality in anyone's life who's leading a home improvement company or any company is written and tied to personal values and personal goals, right? But I think you have to, you hit it. You have to lead with intentionality and purpose, and you have to know what that is, and you have to like own it. And by the way, this goes both ways. As a coach and a consultant for years and still involved in the industry, I've seen so many companies get to a certain point and stop, right? 4 million in sales, 6 million in sales, 10 million in sales, 30 million in sales, whatever it is. Hey, you know what? There's no problem with that, as long as it's done with purpose and intentionality, right? And I've seen so many people who probably, if they would work with me as a coach, would say within 5 sessions, wow, I'm completely happy with where I am. I love my business with where I am. But I go to these conventions and I go to these things and it's growth. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to be bigger. I got to do this. And so they get confused and they're not really following their purpose or intentionality, right? And like, it is fine to be that size as long as, and like, you're purposeful about it. And it's fine to scale to $1 billion if you're purposeful about it and you know that's what you want.
You kind of alluded to it, when someone comes on a board as a client of yours and you're their coach, what does that look like? Is a lot of that going back to, hey, what is your purpose here and what is it you're trying to accomplish? But what does that look like when you onboard a new client?
One of the first things that I'll do is do a personal values exercise, and have them develop the personal values. I've had people where I talk about this just say, no, boom, 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 are my personal values. And I have other people look at me, why? Hey, man, I called you because like I need to get out of this hole, right? Why are you going there? So a lot of times it will start with personal values. My coaching centers around, helping people be happy and joyful, right? And I want them to focus on that. And I love businesses as a tool for that, right? Many times it becomes the opposite. I mean, it becomes the business is taking happiness and joy away. And by no means does it have to. But my coaching engagements will usually seriously revolve initially around personal values, and then we'll quickly get to what is it you really want, right? And a lot of times I'll call this winning. Like, what does winning look like to you in 3 to 5 years? And I would say half my clients are blown away when they sit back and they really go, well, wait a minute. Like, if I open 5 more offices, my kids are 2 and 4. And if I open 5 more offices in 3 or 4 years, like, how am I going to be home more? And what I really value is being home with my kids. And by the way, so that's not a trade-off in you can't scale your business, but it might be a trade-off in that, well, maybe you should scale in a different way. Maybe add products so you don't have to travel in your hometown, right? Who knows what it is? But it's those kind of things, like we set up what values are and what does winning look like for you. But I will never talk about winning strictly in terms of business. I will always talk about winning in terms of someone's happiness, life, spirituality, friends, family, whatever it is, and try to put that first and have business serve that.
Love it. Good stuff. Well, I promised we were going to come back to this, and you had talked about earlier with, the multiples that a lot of home improvement businesses, home services businesses are selling for, with a lot of private equity money coming in. I'm curious. I mean, if there's somebody out there and they're running their business and they want that to be their end game to sell to private equity, any specific things they should be doing to be able to position their company best for that? Or do you think you just drive forward and do the best you can with your business in terms of culture? And then it ends up where it ends up.
No, you know what? You do need to prepare. And preparing is, some of it's easy and some of it's hard. One of the first steps, concrete steps, is start getting your financial statements either compiled or reviewed. Compile is the lowest level that CPAs do. Review is the next. Audit is the third. Almost no one's going to have no one under $1 billion will have audited financial statements. But, even at $5 million, start a compilation, get that done, right? It's not expensive. It's not hard. Not only does it help with exit, it also gives you confidence that you're doing your accounting right. The next thing is, man, you got to replace yourself. Private equity especially does not want to come in and see a business based on one person doing the work, because they're about to give that person a bunch of money and they don't know if that person is going to stick around. They might not want that person to stick around.
Right.
Right. And if you don't have a good team and if you're not working on replacing yourself, you're lowering your value. And other than that, I've heard so many things about product diversity. I don't like good run business that is not based on the leader, that has decent culture and by the way, one other thing to add to that is not just your accounting. Make sure all your other numbers make sense. Like, make sure the numbers that you're putting in for sales, marketing, all the other things, leads, make sense. They don't feel that they have to conform to some standard that private equity, but be able to sit in a room and say, these are the leads I got. This is what I sold. This is what I installed. And know those numbers are correct. They don't have to be correct in any certain way, but make sure they're correct. Because I can tell you that alone, even more than accounting, private equity firms are used to going in and seeing poor accounting. Private equity firms will come in and say, whatever, we're putting our new accounting systems in. when they come in and they don't feel that the owner or whoever knows what the numbers are, or there's no real feel for the numbers, that's a huge red flag.
Very interesting. And, one of the numbers I keep hearing more and more about today is now I forget what it is, but it's basically how much can an installation crew produce in a day?
Oh, God, yeah.
What is that number? And
incredibly important.
Yeah.
That was not as focused on, right? Incredibly
You're right.
important.
It wasn't years ago. You didn't think a whole lot about it.
Oh, one other thing I'd like to add is, and this one is hard, be as legally compliant as you can. It is impossible. It is impossible to be 100% legally compliant, right? You're not going to get every permit you need. You're going to miss some even if you're trying. Permit people will tell you all the time, don't worry about permits, right? Like you'll go to the permit office, don't worry about permits, but they won't put it in writing. Your EPA stuff, try to get it as right as you possibly can, right? And as you grow, get it more right.
And that sets you apart from your competition, for one thing. But it is also, I have to imagine anyone in private equity doesn't want to step into a business that's going to have surprises.
No surprises. No. Yeah, no surprises. And look, but also they don't expect small businesses to be 100% perfect 100% of the time, right? You're going to have your credit card data might not be perfect. I mean, all these things you're not good, but and by the way, even regulatory agencies are the same way. Like when they come look at you, not trying is terrible. Trying and doing it right 95% of the time is very much appreciated, right? You're going to make some mistakes. You might miss this. Your doors might not be locked correctly or something. However, they're generally fine with that.
I'm kind of curious for your thoughts on consumer buying habits. When you and I first knew each other years ago, I don't know that Amazon even existed. But yet this whole Amazon culture has kind of, to me, impacted how consumers want to go about buying things. And I'm starting to see that spill over into home improvements as well. Any thoughts on how company leaders adjust to that?
So I sat on the advisory board of a very large home improvement company for years, and this discussion had come up years ago. Sadly, my answer, Todd, is at my age, I will even exited any current companies by the time that becomes a true issue, right?
Fair enough.
I think, right. I think that it is definitely coming to a greater extent, and I don't have an answer to it. I know it's important, but I also know at my age and the tenure of my companies will probably be, I will have still, we have another good 10, 15 years of baby boomers driving the economy, spending the money.
Yep.
And the baby boomers are still going to have someone to their house.
Yeah.
Right. Beyond that, I can't tell you it's a concern, and I don't know how it's going to shake out.
Well, any thoughts on AI? And maybe your thoughts on that are kind of similar, but any thoughts on how AI is impacting or going to impact us?
I don't have thoughts on how AI is going to impact us, but here's the analogy I like to use. When people are talking about AI now, and I was just recently in a talk in a peer group about it, they were talking about how like ChatGPT, how you prompt them and how you ask questions and how this all works and the new ones that are coming out. And what I told them, I said, guys, it sounds like we're talking about the beginning of internet and asking how we ask AOL something. Okay? But what we really need to get to is Uber. What are the further applications of this that are going to do things that we haven't even thought about? Because Uber is a complete consequence of the internet and how connectivity and phones work, right? But nobody was talking about that then. And I think that's the kind of thing that you have to be constantly aware of. Like, what are of course you can use AI to judge your leads. You can use AI to for instance, I'm a big fan, and I'll give a pitch of Rilla, where you record the conversations in the house.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that for so many reasons. It provides customer safety. Right? We have to make sure our salespeople are saying the right things and nothing wrong. I love it. But then again, you put that through an AI filter and it gives you all sorts of feedback. There's all sorts of applications now that I think you have to stay on. But I think that the applications that it really brings, we don't really understand yet.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. And you kind of reminded me of something years ago when, the internet first started. Boy, am I dating myself. But one of the guys here in the office saw me searching for something, probably on Yahoo, and I searched in the form of a question. And, he just thought that was hilarious that I was searching by asking a question, but yet that's what we're doing today. So I was ahead of my time. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So What any thoughts on who people should be paying attention to? Obviously, than yourself, other than yourself. Any advice in terms of folks people should be listening to, reading, those types of things?
God, what's a Right People on the Bus book?
Oh, Jim Collins. Yeah.
Jim Collins, just a seminal book, E-Myth Revisited. And these aren't, I mean, the books that I read now are more things you talked about, intentionality, manifesting futures, and things like that I'm concerned with. But those are two books that Jim Collins and like E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber, that are completely needed. I'll never forget when I was a young person in business, I walked into a peer group. I was in Vistage years ago. I walked into a peer group and I said, guys, I need some time today. I have to figure out if I have the right people on the bus. And if you read the book, you know what I'm talking about, in the right seats. And this older gentleman started laughing. He's like, Larry, he's like, that's not something you solve. You don't get the right people in the right seats and sit back. Like, you're going to ask this question every month. He's like, you don't solve for this. He's like, because what's going to happen is they're going to leave. You're going to grow the business. Things are going to happen. Like, you don't just you can't come in. We can't just talk about it once. You're always going to worry. Do I have the right people in the right seats? And Colin, that's a seminal book that as far as other people paying attention to, not sure, right? There's economists and theorists that I pay attention to, but I wouldn't necessarily suggest those.
Good stuff.
I do think just on a greater macroeconomic thing, I am very bullish on America. And I think America has a couple years of tough times and is going to really, really be a boom town for years.
Well, we're glad to hear that, and I'm right there with you. I agree. Well, Larry, this has been a privilege to have you with us today, and some great sound bites are going to be pulled out of this, some great advice for our listeners. Any final words of encouragement or advice that you have for contractors out there to reach higher levels of success today?
Look, I would just say do it with intentionality. And by the way, I learned long ago that not just people, but it's the systems too. You get the right people in the right systems and you operate right. Operations is where it's at.
Goes back to Michael Gerber and what he started telling us 30 years ago, and it's holds true today. Well, thank you. Well, I got to ask you before we close out, we're kind of too close to the end of our business end of things. Are you willing to participate in our rapid fire questions? These are just 5 questions just for you to give an off-the-cuff response.
Sure.
Awesome. Ryan, you want to alternate questions?
Yes, let's do it. You want me to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. What's the best leadership book you've ever read?
Lencioni, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Because it's actionable, immediately actionable.
Good stuff. I agree. And, it's funny. I always have to laugh at Lencioni because when I first started reading him, I hadn't heard him. And I thought, this guy is really serious and erudite. And then I started seeing him speak places and I found out he was just a complete goofball. He's still extremely smart and brilliant.
Agreed.
What a funny guy.
Look, that's just great. And that, like all these other books you can read and you might not be able to do it. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team comes with workbooks. All of a sudden you're doing it with your team, following a workbook, and leadership gets better.
Next question. What is a product or service that you've acquired in recent memory that was a game changer for you? Sort of where's this been all my life type thing?
Infrared sauna.
Infrared sauna. Tell me about that.
One, I love it. But what's crazy is I am like MDVIP, which is the largest concierge medicine group in the country, has just come out in like their 5 recommendations of longevity and health is infrared saunas.
Huh.
I mean, all the studies and how it like helps me with inflammation, rest, everything. Like a massive fan of infrared saunas.
Wow. So right here in Ohio right now, it feels like you're in a sauna when you go outside. But is infrared sauna a daily thing or what is this?
Yeah, a couple times a week.
Okay.
Maybe you've answered the third question here already, but how do you recharge after a long week?
I don't have long weeks. I'm retired.
Good for you. Well, I'll go on to the next question. What is one habit that you've acquired or you've developed that you think enhances your effectiveness? Something that you've discovered, hey, I just got to make this a regular part of my life.
I'm going to tell you, I really want to think of the man's name who taught it. He's one of the premier speakers at Vistage. Handwritten thank you notes. And the secret to handwritten thank you notes is you keep them sitting on your desk in front of you. You put them there, and I buy my stationery from a very fancy hoity-toity stationery store in New Orleans, and they flat out tell me you write more hand notes than any like rich old lady in New Orleans. It is, and it is. Look, it's a couple minutes a week. It changes people's attitude, and like do it, start somewhere. But the key to it, he teaches, is have them as the sole thing on your desk. I have my computer like a light, and then I have thank you cards that I stare at.
Wow. I love that. I love it. Good stuff. I may have a thank you note or two from you from years ago.
You might have a thank you note from me. I have probably written you thank you notes.
Okay, last question here. What is your favorite meal?
Lobster.
Love that.
One side of my family's from Maine. That's an easy one.
Good answer. Well, Larry, thank you again. You are making a difference out there. You always have, and you continue to be. And thank you for being a great part of this great industry we work together in. So for those who want to learn more or to connect with you about your consulting and coaching, what's the best way for them to do that?
ClausCoaching.com. Just Claus Coaching, or LinkedIn. Look me up, Lawrence Claus, on LinkedIn. Either way, you can get me.
Come to you that way. Good stuff. Well, we're going to put that in the show notes, and we very much encourage folks to reach out. Thank you again for being on the show, Larry. This has been great.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Construction Disruption with executive coach, marketing genius, and home improvement expert, Larry Claus. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We always have great guests. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or give us a thumbs up on YouTube. In the meanwhile, though, keep on disrupting, keep on challenging, keep on looking for better ways of doing things. And don't forget to have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Bless them, make them smile, encourage them. So in the meanwhile, God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.